morning. Good morning, everyone. Wow, I like that. I'm Cheryl Oldham, Senior Vice President, oversee the Center for Education and Workforce at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all here today. What a packed crowd. This is amazing. We're really, really excited that you guys have come, some of you from really, really far away, to be with us here today. We're honored to host you all to have this important conversation and for our second annual National Workforce Conference, Talent Forward. We're really especially pleased to have a lot of our National Learning Network partners here. This is a group of people that have been with us from the beginning, working through these really tough workforce challenges with us, and we appreciate you and are so glad that you were able to join us here today. It goes without saying, as I think you can see from your program at your desk, that this is a packed, jam-packed day. We don't give you really any breaks until lunch. So, but you'll have a couple of them throughout the day. Please feel free. I hope you'll spend a little bit of time when you can next door in the briefing center and enjoy some of the displays that we have. They're really sort of innovative, unique uses of technology, and we really hope that you'll play with them and spend some time with it. We appreciate the folks that have come and offered to display those for us today. This is being webcast, and we hope that you all will join in the conversation online and use our hashtag TalentForward18. I want to spend just a second, if you'll indulge me, thanking the sponsors who really, we could not do this without you. Accenture, Bank of America, the Coalition on Adult Basic Education, Cognizant, Deloitte, FedEx, Lumina Foundation, McDonald's, Pearson, Universal Technical Institute, Walmart, and UScience. Really could not be possible. We could not do this without you, your thought leadership, your support, your engagement, your involvement in pulling this together. So thank you so much. So our goal for Talent Forward really was to bring you all together, to bring leaders, change makers in business and education, industry, and human resource partners to discuss this really most critical topic in our country today, our workforce. How to grow, recruit, and align talent to economic need impacts everyone, every future and existing employee, and every business, whether a mom and pop shop or a Fortune 50 company. Ultimately, creating an environment where cultivating talent is the focus leads to shared success for individuals, companies, and communities. Today, we'll hear from so many dynamic speakers discussing real and relevant pathways to careers, actionable strategies to close the skills gap, and employer-led solutions that are driving talent forward. And you'll notice, sprinkled throughout the day, we'll hear stories from communities working to solve these challenges, and this is brought to you by our partnership with the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and their American Graduate Program. It's really fitting, I think, that we're hosting this here at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce because there really isn't a conversation in this building that it does not start with jobs. We're here because workforce is an issue that permeates so many other challenges we face in this country, and the solutions are not singular. They're varied and diverse, and we believe led by the private sector. So let's get to work. The most important thing I'm going to do today is this next piece, and I have this whole long introduction prepared, but I think I'm going to go a little bit off script and just say I get to introduce a really extraordinary human being, the leader of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. His passion for what we do here at the Chamber is unparalleled. His leadership is extraordinary. He really gives us the space to innovate. He's the reason that you're going to get to see these really amazing, innovative workforce solutions that we're piloting and developing here at the Chamber Foundation. He gives us this space and really encourages us to take risk, to fail if we need to make mistakes, although don't make the same mistakes. And so it's the reason I know that all of us are privileged and honored to get up every single day and come to work here. And so it is my pleasure to introduce to you the President and CEO of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation, Tom Donohue.
Well, thank you very much, Cheryl, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a great crowd and a great building. Many of you have been here before. If this is your first time, when they turn the lights on a little later, make sure to look at the ceiling. It's the history of the early opening of the Western world, and that was completed in 1923. And we pray all the time that it'll stay up there. We call this room the Hall of Flags, and you will see around the room the flags of the great explorers that opened up this part of the world. Now let me answer any questions that people have by what I say. Yes, I did screw up my knee. No, it is not a very exciting story. It starts with an S and ends with stupid. But I'm here to do this anyway. I want to thank Cheryl and all of her talented people. We've got some of the nation's very best people that work here with Cheryl and her outstanding team at the Center for Education and Workforce. They're behind some of the most exciting and innovative initiatives that we have going in this building. So I want to start by once again thanking all of them for putting together this conference and bringing all of you to be with us today. You know, ladies and gentlemen, human capital is the single greatest asset any nation can possess, and economic growth and economic success is dependent on two fundamental issues: human capital and cash, investment cash. Workers, whether they're culturally and educationally ready to get at it, from home or abroad, are the muscle, the brain power, and the energy that drives our economy. There's no question that the American workforce is the finest in the world. I will enter that debate. Call me, schedule it, you pay for the room, I'll be there and buy the lunch. From the assembly line workers who helped usher in the Industrial Revolution, to the mathematicians and the engineers who pioneered the digital age, U.S. workers have helped create and sustain the most dramatic and resilient economy perhaps in the history of the world. In the process, they've experienced the personal satisfaction of hard work, they've learned the lessons of failure and reaped the rewards of success. They've provided for their families and contributed to their communities and improved life for others. The collective talent of our nation isn't just the bedrock of the economy, it's the beating heart of the American promise. It's part of what makes this country exceptional, and it's an advantage that we must never cede. But, if we're going to keep that advantage, if we're going to keep the promise of opportunity to future generations of Americans, we have lots and lots of work to do. Our economy is rapidly being reshaped by technology, by automation, globalization, and other forces. This transformation is creating opportunity, but it's also creating fundamental disruption. And with it, insecurity for many businesses, workers, and families. A lot of this insecurity can be attributed to two gaps. That is, they are preventing our nation from leveraging its talent and our people from revitalizing their potential. The first is a skills gap. Too many people lack the skills or credentials they need to compete for 21st century jobs. The second is a people gap. Too many businesses can't find the workers they need when and where they need them, no matter how hard they try. Closing both gaps is an imperative to our competitiveness. Let me go off the script here for a minute and tell you, if you really want to think about the people gap, which is fundamental to the skills gap, I would say, to get your thinking going for the rest of what I'm going to talk about, the United States is fundamentally out of people. And we're going to have to find ways to bring to ourselves, either from people that are on the sidelines for difficult reasons or people from elsewhere in the world, we are going to have to bring additional people to this work. We must have a steady supply of talented and hardworking individuals to do the work of a modern economy so our nation can compete. And we need the right policies, systems, and opportunities in place to prepare those individuals so they can compete. This is a multifaceted challenge that requires us to address shortcomings in education, modernize antiquated training and retraining programs, fix a broken immigration system, and tackle deep-rooted societal changes. And it requires the engagement of stakeholders in the public, the private, the nonprofit sectors, along with educators, civic leaders, political leaders, and families. Business is already leading this national imperative, and for a very good reason. No single entity has a greater stake in the strength of our talent pool than the business community. We have the ideas, the innovations, and the drive to change and create solutions. Today, I'd like to take an in-depth look at the twin challenges of the skills gap and the people gap, and some of the ways business is working to bridge them and how you can help. Let's start with the skills gap. Too many people are not being adequately prepared for opportunity in the modern economy. Many will struggle to climb the economic ladder as they face limited job opportunities, lowered earning potential, or long-term joblessness. Some will get locked into a cycle of dependence on government that will make it very difficult for them to prosper in the private sector. One of the most fundamental ways that we can prevent people from falling into this gap is by strengthening education, all the way from birth through graduation and graduation. It is commonly accepted that career prep starts in the classroom, but the studies, the in-depth studies we're all looking at now, show that the foundation for skills development is in the first 5 years of life before most children ever meet any type of out-of-house teacher. So the skills gap is not just a college issue or a classroom issue, it's also a child care issue, especially when you consider that 2/3 of children under 5 are in some kind of child care where both parents work. The Chambers Foundation promotes efforts to improve and expand access to high-quality child care or early education. We've been in dozens of states over the past 18 months to raise the awareness of this priority, and the reception has been extraordinary. The next step would then be in the education pipeline, K through 12, and the challenges there are very well known. The Department of Education's National Report Card, released earlier this year, shows that more than half of the 4th grade students are operating behind the system. You want to know what that means? The idea is if you can learn to read by the time you finish the 3rd grade, you're equipped now to go out and learn for a long time going forward. If more than half the people aren't equipped to read, you figure out the problem. Globally, And this, by the way, Cheryl and I had a little conversation about this before. Globally, if you look at the numbers of science, math, literacy around the world, people say that we're so far behind the 8 ball that we really can't compete. I'm not sure about all those numbers. I do think they point us in to a series of rational questions we've got to pursue. I'm just not sure who's getting tested and who isn't. Without these critical building blocks of learning, it becomes pretty hard, you can imagine, for students to catch up. We've seen some progress in recent years where state-level initiatives have really helped push academic standards up. We need more of them. But much more needs to be done. We believe strongly that rigorous accountability in schools, more choice for families, and greater collaboration between stakeholders can really help us improve K through 12. The goal is to ensure that every student graduates from high school prepared for a next step, to go on to further learning or to go get a good job. And by the way, a 4-year degree is not the only path to prosperity. Work-based learning, apprenticeships, whole sorts of 2-year colleges, on and on, lots of opportunity. And we're very proud of an initiative we have pioneered that applies business principles to better align skills with jobs. It's called Talent Pipeline Management, or TPM. A company projects their workforce demands, they identify and clearly define the necessary skills, and then they partner with education and training providers who then develop curriculum tailored to those specific needs. In a few minutes, a couple of pages down, I'm going to put an interesting conflict on that. People can enter into these training programs knowing that they will lead to employment, and employers can create a steady pipeline of talent ready to fill open positions. To this end, we've been training employer organizations across the country on how to better organize their educational partnerships. We started 2 years ago. Now more than half of the states in the country have a TPM project going with more than 1,000 employers involved. TPM is fundamentally changing how employers engage with training partners. The result is real pathways to actual jobs. A little later in the program, you'll hear from Michigan-based Consumers Energy, which successfully used TPM strategies to hire over 100 qualified gas and electric line workers over a 2-year period of time. Prior to that, the company had to go through 4,000 applications to find 50 people who were employable. TPM continues to grow, and we hope you'll look into it if you can make a contribution or find a use for it. It's clear that building a strong educational foundation and creating pathways to jobs will help us prevent more people from falling into a skills gap in the first place. But what about those who are already well into their careers and now find themselves unable to compete? Or those whose jobs are at risk of becoming obsolete in the economic system? These are thorny questions to which there are no easy answers. First, we need to acknowledge that government programs intended to help those who are displaced by economic changes are adequate, modern, and useful. Businesses can play a more direct role in helping displaced workers get back on their feet by investing in economically depressed communities. We're working on that. Investments in opportunity zones created under the new tax law can work alongside other existing programs to drive job growth and produce skilled workers to fill these jobs. Many older workers, and therefore younger workers in the family, are frozen into those communities because they can't sell a house. They have 2 families living in a house. They wouldn't move without a really good job somewhere else. Very, very complicated. Second, businesses can help by regularly training and retraining their own employees so that their skills can stay sharp and relevant. Now, you hold that sentence. Companies that continually invest in their employees will maintain a greater flexibility and agility in a rapidly training economy. Third, individuals need to engage in lifetime learning. So we've got the one-year holding that companies have got to keep retraining. But here's the sentence I wanted to tell you about. Hiring data shows that the half-life of a pure skills education on specific means and methods is 5 to 7 years. Let me interpret that. If we train you to just do this job and don't train you to learn how to do the next job, and we, the employer, help you do that, in 5 or 7 years, we're going to have to trade you in for a new model. We can't do that. Those who have the adaptability and the entrepreneurship to reinvent themselves and to reinvent their employees, those who don't are at risk of falling into that gap. Employers can help, but individuals have got to take up some of that responsibility. The Chamber has been working with various stakeholders for years to understand the drivers of the skill gap and to try and work with others to design solutions to bridge it. In the process, we realized that it isn't enough to modernize our workforce. We also got to modernize the talent marketplace itself by better leveraging technology and data. This will improve the way talent is identified, recruited, hired, and let me add, retrained. The Chamber is leading this effort through its T3 Innovation Network, which brings together business, post-secondary institutions, human resource professionals, technology vendors, and ensures that they're all singing from the same songbook, even if they're all trying to sell something different. And by the way, from me, somewhat of a peddler, I have great respect for that activity. This means that standardized data, harmonized job requirements and credentials, and helping people manage education and job opportunities by having access to their own data. The Foundation is also teaming up with several top corporations to launch a new job data exchange. This is a groundbreaking effort to help businesses and their HR technology partners better signal in-demand skills for in-demand jobs. You'll hear more about that later. This is a very innovative project. Now, new approaches to modernizing the talent marketplace, coupled with broad efforts to prepare workers for the 21st century opportunities, will do a lot to narrow our nation's skills gap. My favorite subject, closing the people gap. But even as we make significant progress in equipping America's workers with the skills needed in today's economy, we still face a growing people gap. There simply aren't enough people ready, willing, and able, and I mean, and some people are on the sidelines because of health and other issues, but we simply don't have enough people. And let me give you a couple. You know, I used to run the American Trucking Association. There is demand for 3,000 long-haul truck drivers in this country tonight. And the ability to get them is shrinking very quickly. And we could find 15 other industries where this is going on. This is the number one problem I hear from employers all over the country. People are on the sidelines for a variety of reasons, and we need to look at different ways to get them back in the game, but we need to look at different ways to get new workers in the game. For one thing, now, I have checked this statistic 3 times. 10,000 baby boomers are leaving the workforce every day. This trend is expected to continue until 2029. A person's value in our economy doesn't expire at a certain age. By the way, I believe that. We shouldn't be making it easier and providing incentives for people. We should be making it easier and providing incentives for people to continue to work past 60 or 65. What about the next generation of talent? Overall, it's brimming with potential, but there are nearly 5 million so-called opportunity youth, people between 16 and 24, who aren't in school and aren't employed. Working together with many of the companies you'll hear from today, we're partnering with schools, school districts, nonprofit organizations to reach these young people and connect them to work-based learning experiences that lead to first-time jobs. Another driver of this people gap is the opioid epidemic. We're all, people of concern, working on that problem, and the Chamber is vigorously involved. Crime is also siphoning talent out of our economy. There are 6.7 million people in American prisons today. I believe meaningful employment opportunities is the key way to end this mass incarceration. So we need better education, vocational training, and rehabilitation in prisons, and more must be done to prevent former inmates from backsliding. A job would help. I'll mention one other thing about a group of talent that must be fully leveraged in our economy. Veterans and military spouses. They are among the best and the brightest. They are highly trained, resilient, organized, adaptable, and hardworking. But some veterans struggle into transition into the civilian workforce, and many military spouses face challenges in building and sustaining careers because of frequent moves or deployments. The Chamber has a program called Hiring Our Heroes to address these challenges. As a part of our effort, we launched a campaign to hire 500,000 veterans and military spouses. We've already hit the ground, hit that goal, and we're pushing towards 700,000. The Chamber is working with key partners to tackle all of these challenges, and not just because business has an economic stake. It is the right thing to do. I'm going to say a few things about immigration reform and then get out of here. There is another critical way to help close the people gap, and that's through common sense immigration policies. Immigrants have long been a vital part of our economy, and they can help fill those gaps now. Remember to look at the ceiling. Our nation must continue to attract and welcome the world's most industrious and innovative people, and finally, fix our broken immigration system. I'll be the first to admit that our current political climate makes that easier said than done, but necessity is the mother of invention, and eventually it will be done. And I think there's an opportunity to do it in the next few years for a number of reasons. One, the President is determined to secure the border. Two, some 1 million immigrants working legally under DACA and TPS programs could be removed from the workforce if we don't get the Congress to act and protect their interests. I would like to say that anybody that decides that what they want to do is take on the DACA issue and the commitments we've already made and cost us to lose millions of workers, they're going to find themselves a big-time brawl right here in this building. You could write it down. And three, we're seeing the practical consequences of failing to act. Unpicked crops rotting in the field in California, tourist spots and resorts shuttered because of lack of seasonal workers, high-skilled workers opting for careers in other countries. The case for action could not be clearer. Getting something done will require compromise on everyone's part, but there are several things that must be included. Reform must ensure that our nation is safe and secure. The immigration system must be modernized for today's economy and aligned with market demands. Employers must have the ability to hire workers at all skills level when and where they need them. We need an updated employment verification system. The one we've got pretty good. It needs more flexibility. And finally, we need to come up with a tough but fair process for the millions of undocumented people living in the United States to have the opportunity to earn legal status. And we must address the plight, as I said, of the 1.3 million dreamers. If you came in the front door, I hope the signs were out today. We're all over that issue. They contribute to our economy in numerous ways. It would be unconscionable to force them out of their homes, their schools, and their jobs. Ultimately, an effective immigration system will respect the rule of law, respond to the needs of our economy, and reflect our next nation's values. We should settle for nothing less. Let me conclude, ladies and gentlemen. At this moment of rapid change and massive transition, we've got to put talent first. That requires us to bridge the gaps that exist between students and workers and the jobs that will provide them opportunity, security, and prosperity. It requires us to bridge the gaps that exist between employers and skilled workers that need to expand their businesses, serve their communities, and grow their economy. And it requires us to bridge some of the gaps that exist within our political system and among our electorate. These challenges are not small, and their solutions are certainly not simple. But we can't be deterred from action. We can't sit back and watch an economy poised for greater growth stall because we don't have the skilled workers or the people we need. Some might say that these are fundamental social problems, so government must solve them. We've tried that. But it's business that invented the most powerful social program of all, and that's a job. The government doesn't create jobs or ensure opportunity. The private sector does through vibrant free enterprise system supporting economic growth. And if we're smart, we work with the good people in government to support that effort. That's why the Chamber is advancing a business-led effort that includes advocacy for better policies at every level of government, state and local partnerships to advance talent pipeline management and other innovative solutions, data-driven approaches to building and sourcing talent, provocative measures by employers to drive change in their own organizations, fostering a culture in which individuals are encouraged to be entrepreneurial and are driven to succeed, and a commitment to address the social issues that threaten opportunity, prosperity, and competitiveness. We are tackling these challenges so that the American dream remains in reach for all who are willing to work for it. And we are urging all the stakeholders to join us and seek business-led solutions. If we work together, close some and hopefully all these gaps, opportunity will flourish, the economy will grow, people will prosper, and our nation will remain the most innovative, competitive, and productive on earth. Thank you very much.